So I am Nicole. I am happily married, mother of three little kids, 8, 6, and 4. Uh, I am a business development is my business background. But what I'm most excited about today is telling you a little bit about Eden and what we do as a nonprofit. And we think we're a little bit unique than some other nonprofits in that what our goal is to help create like sustainable resource for other nonprofits. And our goal is really to help end trafficking locally and abroad. And maybe I could just tell a little bit of what kind of got me into that whole realm and why we felt like it was a big need. So my husband and I, okay.
You got
So my husband and I and our friends, we were all supposed to go on a service trip out to Pattaya, Thailand. And unfortunately, Pattaya, Thailand is known as the sex trafficking capital of the world. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're traveling there, they're going for a particular reason. And we were going out there to help an organization called Sheer Love. I happened to get pregnant, and so it was really close to my delivery time, so I decided not to go. But my husband and our friends went, and we had already been supporting this organization because we felt like what they were doing was really impactful. And what Sheer Love does is they offer, a trade as an alternative to give people dignity in what they're doing in order to sustain their families and their lives, because trafficking looks a lot different out in Thailand, for instance, versus here in the United States. And Sheer Love, as in shears, like scissor shears, teaches barbering and cosmetology. And so they started a school out there. Diana, who is the founder, she started a school where she could teach this trade and, offer a way out. And they do awesome stuff. They bring men and women out of the trafficking industry every semester, and they empower them with like dignity and a way to make a living, a way to support themselves and their families, which is beautiful. And, while we were over there, we realized, wow, they're doing such good work. And we found out that Diana was actually living in the school that she had built and founded out there. And at first, my husband and our friends were like, oh, wow, we didn't know you lived in the school. And then come to find out, she said, oh, well, actually, we raise support, all of us who volunteer here full time to create this school. We raise support, and my donors fell lower than I realized, and I lost my apartment. And when you're talking about Thailand, it's only a couple $100. And so when we realized that, we were just so shocked at how much good is being done, and yet how feeble it is, because donors, depending on how the economy is doing. We all know that there's been a lot of inflation, and everybody's felt that. And usually the first places where people pull back is the excess, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to give as much as I used to. And we realized, wow, without her, this school wouldn't even be here. These things wouldn't even be happening. And we really, when my husband came back, we were just like, how can we give more? We were already giving monthly, but how do we make this more sustainable? And, lo and behold, I think that saying where it says necessity is the mother of invention, it really came to pass, because we were sitting there saying okay, can we give more monthly? And again, when you're giving monthly, you're just okay, I'm going to give this little extra monthly, but is it really going to make a long impact? Or is it what if we have to tighten our belt? What is going to happen then? Does someone not, does the whole thing come crashing down? Does another student not get to go? You're feeling the weight of it, and you're one person or a couple, as we were a couple of friends. How do we make an impact, a lasting impact? How do we be part of something bigger and sustainable? And it was pretty heavy. I don't know if any of you have gone to different fundraisers or organizations, and you hear the weight, and you're moved. You want to make a difference. You want to have an impact, but you kind of feel is my $10 a month, is it really going to do anything? Is it going to have like the impact that I want it to have? And is it going to be sustainable in the long run? And so that's really where we were. We were really having a hard time with that, but we couldn't shake it. And oftentimes, I know I have done it in the past, like, okay, well, it's just going to wear off. After a while, I get back into my routine and you're not really going to think about it anymore. And yes, I know there's like a lot of things going on in the world that I wish weren't happening, but I can't solve everybody's problems, right? And so, but it wasn't. It was like this like nagging thing. And I was like, okay, God, like what, why are you not letting us let go of this? And my husband was talking to me one day and he was like, well, like if we wanted to go move out to Thailand, we could go full time because we have like residual income with the houses that we rent out. And he was like, what if we could do that for, these people that are out there like dedicating their lives? And we're like, wow, okay. Wow, maybe we do have the resource or the just wherewithal, like, everybody has like different things that they're involved in. And when you feel like you actually are good at something that could, I don't know if it makes sense, but like maybe there's a raft and it's got a leaking hole in it. And you're like, I have the little piece that's going to like stop the leak. I really have it. And so when it became about what we were already doing, like in our own lives, it felt so much lighter, like, because we felt like, oh, we're actually doing this. This could actually solve the problem. And it just got us excited. But I'm going to just like back up because I think I might have told a lot of information, but it doesn't connect maybe for your listeners or even you, because I know you know generally what we're doing, so you know the context. But so in addition to being in business development, my husband and I and our friends also invest in real estate. And so what we do is we purchase rentals and then we rent those out, and it provides, cash flow. And so we have a number of different rentals, and that provides, a decent amount of income for us as just as a family. And that is what I'm talking about in terms of what Eden actually became. So I would like to tell a little bit more about Diana too, just so that you guys can feel as connected to her and her organization as we were. So Diana, she was a hairdresser, and in Hollywood, I mean, she was working on celebrities and whatnot, and she went on her own, just like small service trip to Thailand, and she saw someone being trafficked at the time. I'm not sure if she was on a service trip or if she was just a tourist, but it was like an underage boy, and it's illegal, of course, out there in Thailand. And so she reported it to the authorities, and they said, well, okay. And then she came back and she was talking to her family. She talked to her brother, and she was like, oh, it was just awful. I saw this right in front of me, and the policemen are like standing on the street and they're like not doing anything. And I reported it. It's like, what can you do? And oftentimes I feel like that's how we all feel. Like, what can you do? And her brother, actually, I think it shocked her, but he told her, well, you're a grown woman. You need to do something. She was like, are you serious? Like, what? I'm like a hairdresser. Like, what can I do? And she similarly just like felt that it was just not, she couldn't shake it, And so she was like, all right, Lord, like I'm going to go out there. I'm a hairdresser. I'll do what I can do with being a hairdresser. She founds this school, and she's like, I'll teach him barbering. I'll teach him cosmetology. That is what I know. And because she was just willing to offer what she already had, it's grown into this school where they're able to get, students every semester out, and they're starting their own trades out there, their own salons, and they're able to provide for their family. And like, really, it's not just the people who graduate from the school. It's really like changing generations, because if you grow up in a family where your parents are able to support you and you're not being, sold in order to support the family, it's just like breaks these like generational curses. And so when my husband brought up the idea about real estate, and we were already doing real estate, it just felt like, wow, it's like our ability to offer like cosmetology and barbering, right? In the same way Diana was able to do what she knew and just offer that. We were like, wow, maybe we can offer real estate. And so what Eden does is we're like a 501c3 nonprofit, But rather than, you know, maybe somebody taking a donation, and I guess maybe you could think about it like this. Like if somebody's in need of water and you gave them a glass of water, that's beautiful because someone needs water. But if you took like that energy and the time to like do the hard work of digging a well, then you have water for, you know, a lifetime and generations. And so in a similar way, what we do with donations is we take donations, and in the nonprofit owns those purchases of property, and then that property gets like rehabbed, and then it becomes a rental, and then the cash flow from that helps to create sustainable resource like that well to help support anti-trafficking organizations. And so the first organization that we're helping to support is Sheer Love, because I mean that really like had an impact on us. But we're also super excited because we just purchased a second property, and we're in the midst of rehab, and that's actually in Dayton, Ohio, and it's going to go to help support an organization called Oasis House. So I mean, we know trafficking is not just in Thailand. I mean, it's worldwide, but definitely we have a lot of trafficking that goes on here in the United States. And so we're small, we're just starting out, but we really feel like, wow, this is an opportunity where we could offer what we know and just create that sustainability and reinforce like those that are on the front lines doing such amazing work, like day in and day out, going into the bars, talking to women on the streets, you know, intervening for these women's children who are like, they're going to be going down that path unless somebody does something. And so, I mean, that's what's got us excited right now. So aside from, you know, my regular business development job, I mean, like I'm excited about developing this and just like creating, you know how they talk about like generational wealth a lot. I don't know if you guys are on like Instagram or what, but like generational wealth is like this big thing. My husband and I were like, we're going to create generational generosity. It's going to be so awesome. So that's what's getting us excited right now. And so we're really hoping, you know, that others would be excited with us and want to get involved.
Yeah, I like that generational generosity. So stick with it and keep running with that. So obviously you have passion to help these people, and I know you're focused on Thailand, and you mentioned a little bit about the US with the Ohio, whatever is going on there with that place. But can you share with everybody like the statistics for Thailand with sex trafficking and why it's the largest in the world?
Yeah. So my husband, you know, he's the one that actually went out there and was able to kind of like experience it firsthand. And when he came home, he was just saying like, wow, you know, it's hard because you're there, you know what's going on. But honestly, it feels a little bit just like Vegas. He's like, you got families pushing kids in strollers down the street. And then you have all these open bars where, you know, all these women are, they don't want to be there. But as people walk by, of course, they're smiling. And we were talking with Diana, who works with these men and women all the time. And she was just sharing the experience of these women that are there. And she said, it's tough because she said there's this moment where they're saying like, they're smiling because they're like, okay, like trying to get a job, you know, trying to support my family. And she's like, there's an instance where there's like a rejection, right? Like if somebody walks past you and you're trying to get the job, there's this like, it's really sick. It's like, what's going on in your mind, right? It's this struggle of, oh, am I not good enough? Like they pass me by. And yet at the same time, like you don't want them to choose you, but then you want them to choose. And it's difficult because they say that the trauma, like the post-traumatic stress from this, even if the person is like not caged up, right? A lot of times we think of trafficking like, oh, they're trapped in a room and they can't get out. And well, these women, they're out there on the streets. And so they do have some sort of choice, right? The post-traumatic stress from that is the same as a man who's been in combat when they examine their brains. And so it's like, I mean, this is tough stuff. There, my husband was talking about the men that are there oftentimes are there because they say like, well, it's either me or my daughter. So I'll be in the bar and I'll do it. And so, I mean, you have just this, it's like, who needs to be in a situation where they have to choose like that? Like, why do you have to choose? Oh, I want someone to choose me because then I have no sense of self-worth. But if they do choose me, again, I have no sense of self-worth. It's like, it's so painful. And they're sending their kids. I mean, it's just, it's so difficult. But I mean, you're standing right next to these huge hotels, brand name hotels, you know, all over. So it's like the whole economy would crash without it. And it did for a bit during, you know, COVID. It was like collapsing. And then you found out, oh, there's a lot of people that are going to starve because of this right now. And another organization came up within Share Love, and they were helping older, like grandmas who were, you know, not able to sustain themselves, and they're still trying to go out there during COVID, trying to just make ends meet. And there was another organization that we're also, you know, partnering with, where they were teaching them a trade of just like sewing and knitting, and then selling the product back in the US to try and give them some ability to support their families. So in terms of statistics, I don't have the exact numbers for Thailand per se, but I think a lot of it has to do, unfortunately, with it's so cheap to go out there. You know, you can travel out to Thailand. It's inexpensive. And so you have a lot of poverty. And a lot of times the most vulnerable is where you're going to convince people to choose, well, to be forced into it. You know, I mean, it's like extortion, exploitation. And I mean, it's like, so I think because of poverty, that's probably one of the main reasons. But we see it here in the United States also. And we actually just started our own podcast so that people can like learn a little bit more the ins and outs of trafficking, because honestly, we're not experts. We just saw, wow, this is like a horrible situation. And what our goal is to empower those that are on the front lines, those who are the experts, those who are, you know, spending the time and the hours with the survivors that are out there, and learning how unique it is in different states and versus in Thailand versus in, you know, Africa, and how things are done. So, I mean, if you guys want, you can always go to our website. We just started a podcast, so we have 2 up right now. One is our founder story. One is an interview with Diana from Share Love, and she talks specifically about Thailand. And then we have another one coming with an organization that's out in Ohio, and we have a few more. One was like really eye-opening for me in the US, and she works at Oasis House, and she was talking to us about just how different it is in the United States, how a lot of it has gone, you know, you think you're going down like, well, for us in Southern California, there's like a street known for, you know, I guess like where you could find people. But now there's so much more online, and it's even going into higher demographics. Like, it's not just the poverty. So there's other things that they're just like targeting vulnerable people. So it's not just that you're poor, but maybe that you've had, you know, hard life, and you've had, you know, manipulation in the past, and then it's easier to be taken advantage of. And so all around, it just seems to be connected to vulnerability. That's what really is the area. But the beautiful thing is that there is hope. And even though we were talking about like the post-traumatic things that go on with your brain during this situation, they found like the brain is also, it's been like created to restore itself. So like what you put in afterwards, like rehabilitating these survivors and reminding them of their worth, like the synapses are actually like repairing themselves. It's like amazing what can happen when you have people like pouring into them. And so that's why we really feel like there's like such a need to to support those that are on the front lines. And so not only do we want to support with like financial aspects as Eden, but we also noticed that when we were out there, the team that had gone to go support Sheer Love, they found out that a lot of the volunteers, they're like right out of college, right? Because when you have a family and you have a job, you can't really just like leave everything behind and go and do this type of volunteer work. So a lot of the volunteers, they're straight out of college, maybe never been in a relationship themselves. And then their job is to go in and talk to people with like really tough experiences, and they're sharing it all with them. And it's just like, they need a time to debrief and be able to talk through some of that for their own well-being as well, and just to allow them to be able to continue pouring out, right? If you're pouring out and yet you're not able to like refill, you're not able to process those things, there's just like burnout. And so you can find that in any type of business. I mean, that's why we know we have vacations or we have weekends, because there is burnout if there's not like that refilling of that person. And so now Sheer Love has actually started like a counseling program for their own volunteers to make sure that they are supported and they're able to continue the work. And so a lot of times with these nonprofits, they're working so hard to try and do the work that they're doing that they have like these areas that they put on the back burner, for example, just like the things that are needed for their own team to create sustainability. Or even we talked with Oasis House, and one of the things that they were looking for was a marketing, someone to come in and help support them in terms of, can you tell us what would be the best moves for us as to help with marketing? And they said, well, it's on the back burner because we don't have resources for that. But we know if we did do that, we could move forward so much more strong. And, you know, in the business world, consultants are like a normal practice. But for a nonprofit that's barely getting by and they're trying to put all the resources in the right spots, you know, they can't even think about that, let alone an IT person. They're going to struggle with rebooting their computer. I mean, I don't know how many of you are out there and have had technical issues, even trying to get a podcast going, right? I mean, could you imagine like having your hands tied behind your back and trying to like leap forward and do this good work? And so what we really want to do is bring, you know, the same strategies, the same things that are making the for-profit grow exponentially to the nonprofit, and allow them to, you know, move forward and they're doing such a good work that, I mean, I know there's not many people who would give up everything and go dedicate their lives to helping others. And so when I see that and I'm like, wow, like, yeah, I enjoy sitting around the table with my family on a daily basis. And I enjoy living in America. And I enjoy, you know, watching Netflix. And here you're out there, you gave up everything and you're serving others. And yet you can't even like stay in your own apartment out in Thailand. Like, we just felt like there was like a huge need. And if we were all to come alongside these people who have dedicated themselves to just bringing freedom, like how much more of an impact could we have?
Sorry, my dollars. Yeah. I wanted to just say that I wanted to ask, what does it take for somebody to contribute something towards this?
Yeah.
I mean, is it a lot or is it small? I mean, how much are you looking for?
I mean, honestly, the cool thing is that if you think about it as that well, we're like crowdfunding to buy a property. So, I mean, if you can give $10, if you can give $25, if you give a bunch of money, I mean, sure, like we'll take. But basically, we're using the crowdfunding model. We're going to buy a property. So no matter how much you give, whether if it's like a one-time $10 gift or it's a monthly $10 gift for like 3 years, just the cool thing is that donation never goes away. It is going into an asset that will continue to produce. So I think what we're trying to communicate, or what we're trying to show, is different about how our, you know, model is versus like your traditional nonprofit is. You know, nonprofits usually receive money and then they give it out, which is beautiful. But what we're trying to do is receive money and generate money and give it out so that it can keep going. And so I wish my husband was here. He has like been so sick. He missed out on all the 4th of July festivities. And he usually has this calculation. I was going to try and find it on my computer, but that will probably mess you up. But basically, he said if you had, I think it's like 25,000 people giving $25 a day for 3 years, at the end of it, with the amount of properties based off of our own like flagship property, we would be giving out, I think it's $260,000 a month, every month, and it wouldn't stop. Like, so the idea is that when you're creating something, I mean, you're using the same methods that the for-profits are doing, right? They're generating income, and they know how important it is to generate, because if you don't generate, then your company goes under, right? So we're trying to create something where there is a point where you would be giving out more money than you ever received. So if you can only give $10, yeah, make it count for forever, right? If you can give more, then make it count for forever. But I mean, we're just like a regular, normal family. I mean, my husband and I both work full time. We do the real estate on the side to supplement, so that way I can have more time with my kids. And you know, you'd ever realize how much just setting aside a couple $100s is for us in order to purchase our own rentals, and how it's like giving back to us. So if you have any investing experience at all, you'll know the power of just setting aside a little bit. Any amount, honestly, is going to help.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. And so, I mean, so you mentioned you have a podcast, and you mentioned a little bit about a website or something. How do people reach out and connect with you and see how they can support the cause?
Yeah, so it's restoringedentogether.com, and you can go on there. You can find out a little bit more. If I was confusing in the way that I explained what we do and who we are, I apologize. But we have it all outlined on there, so you can see it. And then you can also listen to our podcast. There's a page right on the header of our website where it says podcast. Go there. You can listen to the 2 that we already have, and we have another one coming out in this month. And so you'll be able to listen to that. If you would like to donate, we would love for you to donate. You can donate online. You can also email us. You can email me at Nicole@restoringedentogether.com, because we really do need all of us. That's why it's together when we're going to do this. Another thing that we would love to offer, if you are excited about what we're doing and you would love to kind of be part of it, is these forays. So I don't know if you've ever been to a Tupperware party, you ladies out there, or Mary Kay, or if you ever sold the essential oils. You know, they usually do these small parties at houses all around. And what we've found is that when you are excited about what we're doing and you share it with just your small community, whether it's like 10 or 15 of your closest friends, and you have them over, what we've done, we've had cheese and wine, and we're like, come on over. We just want to tell you about what we're up to. We get people over, and they get excited about the fact that no matter how much they give, it's going to be like a lifelong gift, and how it works. We're able to share stories about the organizations that we're working with, as well as stories about survivors, as well as stories about just people who've come up with super creative ways to give. We have one woman who writes children's books, and that's how she decided to give. She was like, oh, I'm going to give some proceeds in my children's books because that's what I'm good at. And then we had a young man, you know, in his 20s. He gave, I mean, it would have been a big gift for anybody, but he had been saving for a long time. I guess not that long, because he was only in his 20s, early 20s. I'm telling you, I mean, he could have bought a car with it, and he decided to give. And we were just like, wow, like there are so many people who are out there looking for a way that they can have an impact. And you don't realize, like, it doesn't matter how young, how old. I mean, my kids, like, they'll set aside their change, and they're like, Mom, this is for Eden. I'm like, yeah, there you go. So it's just exciting to see how just sharing with those in your own sphere, your own small community, has been able to like spread the word. So we would love to get you prepared for a soiree in your own home. You know, you set out your hors d'oeuvres or whatever you want to offer, and share maybe a little short film from us. But then also we would love for you guys to share why you're excited about what we're doing and excited about seeing your funds like go on forever. So that is a huge way that you could get involved, is these soirees. Another thing you can do is follow us on Instagram or Facebook and just like keep in touch with us. If you're in real estate and you have a dilapidated house that you're like, I want to get rid of this, let's give it to Eden. Yeah, that we'll take that too. So I think there's a lot of different ways. We also have graduates from MIT that are like, well, I can offer my services here. We have IT friends that were like, well, you know what? I can offer my IT support. So another way that we're helping support these organizations is supporting them with skills that they might not have and accessible to them. And so if they're having an issue and you can meet that need, voila, there you go. So we'd love to like connect you. And if there's other networks that we could even be involved in, that would be awesome. So many ways that you can get involved. So if you're thinking in your own mind, what could I bring to the table? Like, you probably know it better than we do because that's your skill set.
Awesome. Yeah. And that, that's a lot that you shared right there, but I mean, there's plenty of ways to connect and find you guys, it sounds like. Nicole, I am grateful to hear exactly what you two are doing, and, you know, whoever else is around you. So I have one question I ask everybody that comes on my show. What are 3 key things you learned and used along your journey?
Yes. Okay, so I'm a person of faith, and I just realized how oftentimes like faith seems to be this like, or for me at least, so I can't speak for anybody else except for me, like this fuzzy thing, right? Like, oh yeah, gotta be faithful. And really it's just like being a good steward with what you've been blessed with, like gifted with. Okay, this is kind of off topic. Jeff Bezos had this like thing that was scrolling, like this Instagram feed. And he was talking about, you know, a lot of times we're proud of the gifts that we've been given. Like, oh, if you're really good at math, sometimes you can be like, oh yeah, I'm so good at math or whatever. Or I'm a really good dancer, or I'm just attractive or whatever. You can be proud of the things that you were gifted, but they're just gifts. Like, you shouldn't be proud of them. You should be thankful for them, right? But the things that you can like take joy in accomplishing is like stewarding the gifts that you've been given. And so I feel like, wow, that's what it, like, I'm kind of going through a shift right now and being like, okay, God, like, you know, what does that really look like hands-on wise, stewarding the gifts that I've been given? Because oftentimes my natural inclination is to go to the things that I'm lacking. Like if I only had this, if I only had that, and forgetful of the things that I have been given and how much I could really be stewarding those things better. This is one example. Like when I was sitting there listening to Diana tell her story about Thailand, she was speaking about Thailand. She was telling that story about that young boy that she saw. I mean, I was like getting choked up, but I was also feeling this like, well, I can't do anything. Like, I feel like somebody's trying to call me forward and I don't have anything to give here, man, you know? And then being like, oh, wow, there's like so much that, that I do have that I've already been gifted with. And so I think, I think I was answering that question. That might have gone off the deep end, but that's like one area. Like faithfulness is just really stewarding the things that like God's given you, and just like saying, okay, I'm willing to like move into that or move into whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
What are 3 things hard and used along your journey? So you answered one with faith.
Okay. So one, yeah, the stewarding. The other one, I guess, would be connected to that, like maybe listening to God more and believing that He has equipped you with a gift. So I think those two tie in together. And the third is like like cultivating. I don't know if these are two connected, but to me, in like my mind, like hope and gratitude, right? Like when there is hope, you're like, oh, there is hope, because I can go down this like rabbit hole of, well, but what if this happens? What if this? I mean, even with this organization, there's like this mental battle that I go through on a daily humanity basis, which is, what the heck are you doing? You are not able to do this. Why did you even start this? Wouldn't this be easier if this just all went away? Because then you wouldn't have like people counting on you, you know? It's like it's responsibility. And then the other voice that's saying like, I've equipped you. You're okay. I didn't give you this idea for no reason, you know? So I think, I don't know what you would call that, but this like, just hope, the like say and hope.
If something called you to start it, right? So, I mean, what if you didn't do it?
Huh.
Something called you to start all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think those would be the three.
That's great. Yeah. You know, faith has been like a big one I've been getting a lot lately. And, you know, obviously with everything else you just shared too. But that's the one that sticks out a lot. So Nicole, I'm glad we were able to connect and finally get to know more about what you're doing and helping others in other countries and here in the US. And I'm definitely going to check out your podcast and see how that's going for you. And hopefully you get more listeners and, you know, reach out to more people to understand and maybe chip in, and they can help out in some ways that they want to, that they never knew they could. Right. So thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, John. And I know you've already in the background, John's the one in the back sending out emails and connecting different people. And I really appreciate that about you. So thank you for offering that and helping us grow.
You're welcome. Yeah, no problem.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.